What are your thoughts so far on the 20th CPC Congress?
Well, there's a lot to go over. I mean, one of the most striking things about the Congress is how unique it is in the sense that you have what Carlos called in his latest article in China Today the most successful political party in the world, the Communist Party of China, 96 million members, uh, uh, several thousand of their delegates coming together to review this work report given by Xi Jinping, to review the history of where the party has come, especially since the 18th Party Congress when Xi Jinping was named the general secretary, all the way into the 19th and now the 20th National Congress of the party, to review what has happened since then, the achievements. I mean, these remarkable achievements that Carlos reviewed, reaching one of the main goals since the 19th Congress was to complete this process of becoming a moderately prosperous society so that now the CPC can turn its attention fully toward socialist modernization and basically achieving modernization by 2035 on the way to what has never existed prior to this point, which is a modern socialist country in all respects. That's the goal here, to reach that by 2050. And what's remarkable about this is that the CPC understands all of the challenges before it. This is something that a lot of people in the West, a lot of detractors of China, the China hawks, those in the Beltway in DC, those neocons, and really people across the political spectrum, given the heightened anti-China sentiment across the West and the United States leading all of that. Often we hear that the CPC is this quote-unquote authoritarian party that doesn't recognize mistakes, that's not critical, and that it's brainwashing all of the Chinese people. Here you have this party Congress where one of the strongest messages coming out is there are dangerous storms externally, and there are also a lot of challenges internally that need to be addressed simultaneously if the CPC is going to be successful in achieving this goal and fulfilling its promises to the Chinese people, which are everything to the Communist Party of China. And that has been shown quite evidently in how the Communist Party has led the way in achieving the end of absolute poverty, in being able to meet these markers that Carlos spoke about, and to go forward into the future, to focus on high quality development, which development, no surprise here, was the most referenced word in the work report. But high quality development was especially emphasized because now it's not just a matter of can we get China to be a prosperous country? China has relatively achieved that. Now it's about how can everybody share in these benefits, not just in China, but around the world. And that, I think, is a very remarkable mission to have in this moment where the rest of the world, we were joking about the UK situation, the musical chairs happening with the prime minister position. We could talk about the United States and the illegitimacy of its governance system, but all across the so-called quote-unquote civilized West, we see a marked decline. And the CPC is showing that actually it's not only in a state of renewal, but it really is in a high state of becoming a rising player in the world stage, and that this National Congress, all of what is coming out of it, is really demonstrating to the world where the future resides, and that resides in the priorities of the Communist Party of China, and how those priorities reflect really humanity's priorities: to end poverty, to address climate change, to address things like public health crises and pandemics, and to forward a vision of peaceful development with an emphasis on peace, right? To be able to forward a peaceful vision for how to relate to other countries. I mean, all of this is really what is in the cards, and nations around the world are paying attention very closely.
Yeah, I want to reflect on some of the similarities and differences with the last party Congress in 2017. That is the 19th Party Congress. Xi Jinping is widely expected to be entering his third term. The Party Congress still goes on for 2 more days. It ends on the 22nd, 23rd, depending on what time zone you're looking at. Now, In the 19th Congress, the Communist Party of China made a very significant difference. This is something that I recently did a Twitter thread about. In the 19th Congress back in 2017, the party announced that socialism with Chinese characteristics had entered a new era. And they basically said that previously, after the opening up period initiated by Deng Xiaoping, that the Chinese government and the Communist Party had focused on developing the productive forces because they made the assessment that you can't develop socialism when the productive forces in the country are not developed. You have to be able to develop those productive forces in order to create, a very large economy, in order to then create enough wealth to share among working people. And in 2017, at the 19th Congress, they made the assessment that basically China has developed the productive forces to a stage where now the main goal is not simply just to grow the economy and the productive forces, but it's to fight inequality and support this idea that they call common prosperity, which goes back to Mao himself. Mao talked about common prosperity. And if you read the publication of the main takeaways from the 19th Congress, again, this was 5 years ago, the CPC wrote, quote, "The principal contradiction of the Chinese society has evolved. In the past, the contradiction was between the ever-growing material and cultural needs of the people and the backwardness of social production." So that's them saying that in the past, before 2017, the goal was to grow the economy because the economy was underdeveloped because of the period of humiliation, of colonialism, and of feudalism. And they said that now, as of the 2017, the principal contradiction is between unbalanced and inadequate development and the people's ever-growing needs for a better life. So that was them acknowledging that the new goal of the CPC is to fight uneven development inside the country. So the government and the party have prioritized decreasing the inequality between the eastern coastal regions, which tend to be much more developed and wealthy, big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, and trying to decrease the inequality between those regions and a lot of the rural areas, especially in the West. And this leads to the policy of development in Xinjiang, which has led to a lot of Western disinformation and propaganda attacking the government. So there's uneven development. And then there's also raising the living standards of poor and working people. The government has already lifted more than 850 million people. I want to repeat that. 850 million people out of poverty. And now that China has eliminated extreme poverty, its goal is to decrease inequality. So that in the last party Congress, they talked about the increasing demands for fairness and justice, rule of law, security, the environment, balanced urban and rural development, and equitable income distribution. So that's a reflection on basically the main developments of the 19th Party Congress. In my assessment, maybe you guys disagree, I think the 19th Congress 5 years ago represented more of a shift compared to the previous party Congresses. And I think what we see now in the 20th Congress is Xi Jinping is reaffirming the party's commitment to those goals established in the 2019 Congress and committing to go further down this path of fighting for common prosperity, fighting against uneven development, fighting against inequality, and of course, the other points he stressed, reunification with Taiwan,